empty and meaningless. This is how the world is. Get used to it. Get on with it, girl.
Well, it's a paradoxical way, though.
It is kind of paradoxical.
The first part of that is nihilistic, and the second part isn't. So how do you reconcile those two things?
That's the problem with atheists. They often talk about things they cannot themselves really do, or ideal world in which they cannot themselves live in.
Positive way of living. To accept the meaningless and ultimate emptiness of everything with life.
But you're not accepting the meaninglessness of it, even by going through those actions that you described.
You don't think so?
Not at all.
It's just what this body does.
Then you should listen to the body and stop listening to the thing that's criticizing it.
And what would the body say?
It would say, write your book and try to be as clear as you possibly can about it.
That's what I do. And that's exactly what I do.
What I said at the beginning is that the atheist types act out a religious structure and criticize it.
Feel or I read some terrible thing going on in the world. Yes, those are tragedies going on in the world. My response is, nothing matters. It's all empty and meaningless. This is how the world is. Get used to it. Get on with it, girl.
That sounds like a very Zen Buddhist way of dealing with meaning.
Well, it's a paradoxical way, though. Because the first part of that is nihilistic, and the second part isn't. So how do you reconcile those two things? Why get on with it, girl?
Because, well, here's another thing. I've often done this with my students. Let's suppose you become nihilistic. Nothing matters. There's no point in doing that. I mean, I think we live in a pointless universe. What are you going to do? And I say to them, like William James in his wonderful thing about getting up in the morning, but that's a slightly different point that he makes there. But I say to them, okay, tomorrow morning, when you wake up, think it's all pointless. There's no point in doing anything. Now, what are you going to do? Well, actually, you're going to need to go to the loo. You're going to get out of bed and you're going to go to the bathroom. And when you're there, you'll think, actually, I'm hungry. I think I want to go down to the kitchen. I probably should put my slippers on. Why don't I get dressed? You go and have something to eat. And then you think, I'm bored. And you go to university and go into your lectures. And, we are not creatures who will just not do anything. To me, to go through that process, which I've done in the past a lot, and it's just natural now, is a very positive way of living. To accept the meaningless and ultimate emptiness of everything, and accept that this creature here, this thing, this evolved creature just will get on with life.
But you're not accepting the meaninglessness of it, even by going through those actions that you described.
You don't think so?
Not at all, because you're acting as if those things are meaningful.
Yes, I am. I'm acting as though those things are
meaningful. Are you pretending that they're meaningful?
Pardon?
Are you pretending that they're meaningful?
No, I'm not pretending.
In a far past, I was afraid to have intellectual discussion with atheists, because there is that myth that suggests that atheists are men of science, which may suggest that they are more brilliant and intelligent than theists. I recall that I wouldn't even want to watch a debate between an atheist and a Christian, because I was afraid that the Christian would get crashed in the debate. But it turned out that it wasn't true at all. After starting watching these discussions and arguments, I have seen time and time again atheists making fallacious arguments or having wrong conclusions or just making very bad philosophical arguments and sometimes just mistakenly just exposing their own biases. I came to know that they were great Christian scientists throughout history. Their belief in God did not stop them to do great in science as well. And also I understood the fact that you were a great biologist did not mean you were a great philosopher or knew what you were talking about concerning other subjects like religion. Now let me react to the video I played before. Let's observe together and point out the issues with what she just said. You will notice Jordan Peterson just pointed out an issue concerning the meaninglessness of life that she speaks about, which is just opposed completely to the next sequence when she says, "Get on with it, girl." The question is not if she can get on with life, because she definitely does. But how does she go from saying that life is meaningless and that we live in a pointless universe to suddenly taking actions that does not reflect that meaninglessness she is talking about? And she even admit herself that she acts as if what she is doing is meaningful. Then why in the first place say that life was meaningless? Those two are very contradictory. She could have been consistent by saying life was meaningless and act according to it, but none of her next actions indicate what she claimed to believe. That's the problem with atheists. They often talk about things they cannot themselves really do, or ideal world in which they cannot themselves live in. She has a nihilistic concept in her head, but when it comes to her approach to real life, suddenly she acts the opposite.
My way of putting it would be that those meanings are constructed by myself and others.
They're personal,
and they're because of the kind of creatures we are, because of the meme
but they're not constructed.
I'd like to
Hunger isn't constructed. Neither is your desire to use the loo. None of that's constructed.
No. But the fact that there is a loo is part of culture.
Yeah. Well, thank God for that. Yeah. But
thank God, would you for that? Sorry, that's a poor joke.
Well, you see. So imagine this: you have the proximal meanings that you described that are sort of a priori, right? Yep. They're handed to you. You might consider them as needs or drives, although they're not. They're personalities. That's not the right way of conceptualizing them. But then there's the intermingling of all those needs and drives, let's say, and that constitutes a new layer of structure, because it isn't just that you have to eat and that you have to use the washroom and that you have to have something to drink and that you have to be warm enough or cool enough to survive. It's that you have to do all those things at the same time in a situation where you're going to have to propagate that across time. And you're going to have to do it with a bunch of other people. Yep. And it's always been like that. And so what that means is that out of those proximal meanings, higher meanings arise. And you might say, well, those meanings are arbitrary. And I would think those are religious meanings. I wouldn't
say they are arbitrary, but I would say they were constructed. It's very interesting. Reading your book...
What do you mean by constructed?
They are a consequence of mimetic evolution, of the language that people are brought up in, the culture they live in, the arguments they have. I mean,
what about the biology that they're given?
Well, we start with the biology, and the memes build on top of that.
The memes are biology too.
Well, by definition, they are. Well,
see, this is the thing.
I would follow Dawkins in saying, well, talk about genes as biology, talk about memes as culture. That's all I meant by dividing that. But let me say this.
Yeah, but I don't accept that division.
But I want to get back to what we're saying about meaning. Reading your book made me think a lot about what you mean by meaning, and your claim that we should have a meaningful life or strive for a meaningful life, that meaningfulness is important. And I kept asking myself, do I live that way? What meanings does my life have? And, if I think of something like, well, most of my striving goes into writing my books. And is that meaningful? And again, I have the same response when I ask myself that question. It's just what this body does.
Then you should listen to the body and stop listening to the thing that's criticizing it.
And what would the body say?
It would say, write your book and try to be as clear as you possibly can about it.
That's what I do. And that's exactly what I do.
What I said at the beginning is that the atheist types act out a religious structure and criticize it.
No, there's no religious structure.
What I seem to understand and what Jordan Peterson is basically trying to show to her is that since she already believes that her body will always push her to do something, then why not then get her conclusion from what that body is indicating to her? Her body or biology seems to be indicating meanings to her. There is, in fact, a hierarchy to those meanings. Some are great and immediate, some are small and delayed. But since our biology is not constructed, nor the fruit of cultural changes, and those meanings rooted in our biology are not as well constructed. The problem is that she claims to be listening to her body, but comes with a wrong conclusion. The body which she listens to seems to be indicating meaningfulness. Then what does she still claim that life is meaningless? The reason why Jordan Peterson said the atheist types act out of religious structure and criticize it is that the religious agrees completely with the meaningfulness of life and built their structure of action on it, and all her actions are in line with that structure too. But then she turns around and criticizes it. One thing to note here, it's the inconsistency. She has not been able to resolve the apparent contradiction. My personal opinion in all this as a Christian is that life is not meaningless but meaningful because God has created us with a purpose. If life was meaningless, then why serve justice by putting offenders in jail? What they did was actually meaningless acts with meaningless consequences. Our world wouldn't survive with such a viewpoint of life. The reason why we even serve justice and jail offenders in this world, it is not to pretend or make the family of the victims feel good, but because we believe, and by we, I mean Christian, that every human life has intrinsic value and meaning in its existence.